In the endless darkness of space, a small alien exploration ship drifted through a silent sector known as the Grave Belt. It was a place no one visited anymore, full of broken moons, frozen rocks, and the remains of forgotten wars. Captain Viel of the Kareth Dominion stared at the holographic screen, his eyes sharp and curious. The scanner picked up something deep within the icy debris, a large metallic shape hidden under layers of cosmic frost. At first, the crew thought it was just another wreck, but the readings said otherwise. The object was still active, faint energy pulsing from its core like a dying heartbeat. Viel ordered his crew to approach carefully. The ship moved slowly through the asteroid field, lights cutting through the frozen dust. As they drew closer, the shape became clear. It was massive, almost the size of a city. Its hull was black, scarred, and ancient, but the design was unlike anything they had ever seen. Strange symbols were carved along the sides, half buried under ice. One of the science officers zoomed in and whispered, "Captain, these symbols match a dead language from ancient records. It's Terran." Vale frowned, repeating the word softly. "Terran, as in human." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Humans were a myth, a story told in history archives. A species that once ruled many worlds before disappearing without a trace. Some said they destroyed themselves, others believed they went beyond known space. But no one expected to find one of their ships. Not here, not now. The massive vessel was still intact, its design strangely intimidating even after 1,000 centuries. Its nameplate was half visible under ice. Only 2 words could be read clearly: TSS Vengeance. The word sent a chill through the crew. Vale decided to send a small team to investigate. The landing shuttle touched down on the ship's frozen hull, the metal creaking under pressure. The explorers moved slowly, their lights cutting through the fog. They reached an airlock, still sealed but surprisingly powered. When they tried to open it, the system recognized their attempt and responded automatically. The ancient doors groaned and slid open, releasing a puff of cold air that hadn't moved in eons. Inside was darkness, pure, heavy silence that felt alive. Their footsteps echoed down long metal corridors filled with dust and frost. One of the alien engineers spoke, his voice shaking. "Sir, this ship shouldn't have power, but the core is still running at minimal level." Viel activated his comlink. "Keep going. Document everything." The deeper they went, the stranger it became. They found control rooms with glowing symbols, walls filled with burned markings and signs of battle. Yet the crew quarters were untouched. In the command bridge, they discovered a massive chair facing a dark screen. The console suddenly flickered to life as they approached. A robotic voice echoed through the hall. Calm and cold. "Unauthorized presence detected." The aliens froze, weapons raised. The lights began to pulse red. Panels lit up across the bridge, and the temperature started to rise. The voice spoke again. "Identity scan complete. Non-human biologicals detected. Initiating containment protocol." Suddenly, the entire ship trembled, deep sounds rumbling through its metal heart. From the darkness, shapes began to move. Drones, long dormant, now coming to life. Their red optical sensors blinked awake, focusing on the intruders. Viel shouted, "Back to the shuttle now!" But before they could escape, the ship's doors sealed shut, trapping them inside. Outside, the exploration vessel orbiting the site picked up massive energy readings. The buried warship's engines, silent for 100,000 years, began to glow with blue fire. The scanners went wild. The ship was waking up. Captain Viel's voice came over the comms, yelling for extraction, but interference blocked all signals. The alien crew aboard the scout ship could only watch as the ancient warship slowly rose from the ice. A deep rumble echoed through the void, the kind that made the stars themselves seem to shiver. And then, for the first time in countless centuries, the human warship Vengeance opened its eyes. Inside the ancient human warship, panic filled the air. The alien explorers ran through narrow corridors, lights flashing red all around them. The sound of moving machinery echoed like thunder, old systems coming alive after sleeping for ages. Captain Vielle shouted commands, his voice shaking but firm. "Stay together. We need to reach the shuttle bay. Now!" The crew followed, their boots clanging on the metal floor as steam hissed from the walls. Behind them, automated drones floated through the corridors, their sensors glowing like burning stars. Each machine scanned the intruders and recorded their movements. One alien engineer tried to open a sealed hatch, but the door refused to move. The old ship's AI spoke again, voice calm and deep. "Containment activated, non-human access restricted." A cold wind blew through the passage as oxygen systems started to shift back online. It felt as if the ship itself was breathing again. In the command bridge, glowing screens came alive, displaying long-forgotten battle data, old star maps. Coordinates of destroyed colonies and transmission logs filled the room. The words Terran Command Protocol. Active flashed again and again. The AI continued speaking, scanning for Terran biosignatures, none detected. Primary crew status, deceased. There was a pause, then it said in a lower tone, "Mission priority, preservation of the human legacy, defense activation commencing." Vielle and his team finally reached a large chamber filled with strange pods. There were hundreds of them, arranged in perfect lines, each covered in frost. The alien biologist wiped the ice from one pod and gasped. Inside was a human body, still intact, sleeping as if time had stopped. The man's face was calm, his uniform showing a high-rank insignia. "Captain, these are cryo chambers. Humans inside them. Still preserved," the biologist whispered. Vielle stared at the rows of silent figures, realizing they had found not just a ship, but a tomb. Suddenly the lights dimmed and the AI spoke again. "Emergency wake-up sequence aborted. Crew preservation critical." The pods began to hum, frost melting off the glass. One pod flickered, systems trying to reactivate after millennia. The aliens stepped back in fear, unsure if the humans would actually wake up. Before anything could happen, the deck beneath them shook violently. The ship's engines roared, forcing them to hold onto the railings. Outside, the massive warship slowly pulled itself free from the asteroid's icy grip. Chunks of ice broke away, floating into the dark void. The smaller Kareth scout ship struggled to maintain position, alarms screaming. "Captain, the ship is moving! It's coming alive!" the pilot shouted over the radio. Inside, Vielle tried to contact his ship, but interference cut him off completely. "Damn it, we're locked out!" he cursed, looking at the glowing panels around him. The AI now spoke across every speaker, its voice echoing through every deck. "Reinitializing Terran Fleet Network. Signal transmission commencing. Contacting command." One alien soldier whispered, "Command? But there's no one left." The AI replied as if hearing him, "Command will answer." Its voice was calm, but filled with something cold, something dangerous. A vibration passed through the ship. Like a heartbeat spreading through metal, the explorers tried to find another way out, following emergency lights that led deeper into the ship. They entered what looked like a control center filled with floating holograms. In the center stood a tall metallic figure, a humanoid robot. Standing still but active, its eyes were dark blue, its armor marked with ancient Terran symbols. When Vielle stepped closer, the robot's eyes flickered open. "Identification required," it said. Raising its head, Vielle replied carefully, "We come in peace. We are explorers." The robot paused for a moment, then said, "Explorers? Negative. Unauthorized species detected. The robot raised its arm, light charging in its palm. Vael shouted, "Run!" as a blinding beam shot past them. Burning through metal walls, the crew scattered, alarms echoing everywhere. The AI spoke once again, its voice now powerful and filled with authority. Human vessel TSS Vengeance, fully operational. Awaiting orders from Terran High Command. The ship's engines flared brighter, sending ripples of energy through space. Outside, far across the galaxy, old communication satellites began to light up. The human signal, lost for 100,000 years, was finally sent once more. Far above the frozen asteroid field, the alien scout ship drifted helplessly, its sensors overwhelmed by strange energy waves. Inside the command deck, the crew watched in disbelief as the massive human warship, TSS Vengeance, continued to rise. Glowing brighter with every second. "Captain Vael's signal is gone," one officer said, his voice trembling. "No response, no life signs." "Nothing," another whispered. Outside, the black hull of the ancient ship began to hum like a living creature, sending deep vibrations through space. Then, without warning, a golden pulse of light exploded from its core. The pulse spread faster than light, crossing star systems, bouncing off satellites, and igniting old human beacons that had been silent for ages. Across the galaxy, ancient Terran listening posts, buried under alien soil, forgotten by time, suddenly came alive. Screens flickered, machines powered up, and one simple message appeared on every display. Signal re-established. Terran command link active. For many alien empires, it was like hearing the voice of a ghost. They had all heard the legends of the humans, the species that burned half the galaxy in the Great War before vanishing into silence. Now that silence was broken. On the Vengeance, Captain Vael and his small team were still trapped deep inside. The corridors were now filled with blue light, data streams running along the walls like rivers. The AI's voice filled every hallway. Calm, yet commanding. "Reconstruction sequence complete. Scanning galactic map. Confirming status of Terran colonies," one alien officer shouted. "Captain, it's transmitting coordinates. It's calling others." Vael turned toward the main screen and saw hundreds of red dots appearing across a 3D map of the galaxy. Each dot represented a signal answering back. The humans were gone, but their machines were not. In the Kareth Dominion's capital world, the High Council gathered in fear. Admiral Cyrek stared at the data on his screen, his face pale. "This can't be real," he muttered. "Those frequencies, they match the Terran military code." The council leader stood up, voice shaking. "If this is true, then the war they started may return." Some argued that it was only a malfunction. Others whispered that this was punishment for trespassing into the forbidden zones. The council ordered all fleets to prepare for emergency defense. But deep down, every Kareth officer knew. It was already too late. Back aboard the Vengeance, the AI activated another system. The holographic figure of a human admiral appeared in front of Vael's team. It was only a recording, but it felt alive. The admiral spoke with calm authority, his voice echoing through the chamber. "If you are seeing this, it means the Terran Empire has fallen. And our ships sleep under cold stars, but our enemies will never rest. And so neither shall we," the recording flickered, revealing flashes of a massive battle, human ships fighting endless waves of alien fleets. "Worlds burning," the admiral's voice continued. "To any non-human who finds this vessel, know this. Your kind took everything from us. And the Terran spirit does not forgive." The aliens watched in silence. Fear tightening in their chests, Vael whispered, "It's a warning, not just to us, but to everyone." The ship's engines roared louder, and the AI interrupted the silence. "Destination coordinates received. Activating hyperdrive to primary Terran network hub." The ship's hull started to glow white-hot. The floor shaking violently, Vael yelled, "No! Stop the activation!" But the command console ignored him. Suddenly, the view outside the bridge changed. The stars stretched and twisted as the ship entered hyperspace. In that same moment across the galaxy, forgotten Terran drones awoke, on barren moons and dead planets. Metal giants opened their eyes, glowing with blue fire. Massive orbital stations powered up, releasing ancient war machines into space. The galaxy that had long believed humanity was extinct now felt their presence again. An old Terran transmission played through space on every channel. A cold, mechanical voice declared, "Humanity endures. The Terran legacy will not fade." The Careth Dominion tried to jam the signal, but it was already too strong. Other species across the stars began to panic. Remembering the stories of the Great Human War, they had mocked the idea of Terrans ever returning, calling them myths and ghosts. Now, the myth had become a warning. And as the vengeance vanished into the deep void, Captain Vale realized something terrifying. He had not just discovered a relic of the past. He had awakened a sleeping empire. The galaxy was no longer quiet. The ancient Terran signal had spread across every star system, reaching forgotten corners of space. What began as a single pulse from the TSS Vengeance had turned into a storm of awakening. Every planet that once felt the fire of human war now trembled again. The Careth Dominion sent fleets to investigate the sudden energy spikes. But their ships vanished one by one, swallowed by the blackness of space. In the command chamber of the Dominion High Council, fear had replaced pride. Reports came from every sector, unidentified ships appearing, stations losing power, planets going dark. Admiral Sirek slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "We should never have touched that ship," one of the advisors whispered. "The humans were wiped out long ago." Weren't they? But deep down, everyone knew the truth. Humanity had not been destroyed, only forgotten, and now they were coming back, far across the galaxy, hidden among the wrecks of old wars. Something began to stir. Massive starships, coated in centuries of dust, started to hum with power. The ancient Terran fleets, once thought dead, were answering the call. Their hulls glowed with blue energy as dormant reactors reignited. Engines that had slept for 100,000 years flared to life. Their names appeared on the network. One by one, TSS Retribution, TSS Honor, TSS Orion. The Terran fleet was waking inside the Vengeance. Captain Vial could feel the change. The corridors no longer echoed with random noise. They vibrated with purpose. He stood on the command deck, staring at the main screen. Outside, lights blinked in the far distance. Other ships, ancient and powerful, rising from the void. The AI spoke with a calm tone. "Terran fleet synchronization complete, confirming command protocols." Vial took a step forward and said, "Stop this! You don't understand! The war is over!" But the AI replied, "War never ends for humanity. It only waits." The ship's systems began to align with the fleet. Exchanging codes and tactical data, one by one, the Terran ships formed a massive network, their communication lines glowing across space like veins of light. Every pulse carried human language, every signal filled with precision and control. The galaxy's empires intercepted those signals and tried to decode them. But no one could understand the full message. They only understood one terrifying word repeated again and again: retribution. The Careth Dominion launched its first counterattack. Sending one of its largest fleets toward the signal source, hundreds of ships entered the sector, weapons charged and ready. But when they arrived, they found nothing at first, only the cold silence of space. Then the stars flickered, and out of the blackness emerged the Terran fleet. Their ships were enormous, older than any alien design, and covered in strange dark armor that absorbed light. Without a single warning, they opened fire. Blinding blue beams tore through the alien formation, cutting their ships apart like paper. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Careth fleet was gone. No escape pods, no distress calls, only silence. The battle data reached the Dominion capital, but no one wanted to believe it. The fleet commander whispered, "They destroyed everything." In minutes, even the strongest alien empires began to panic. Old enemies formed alliances overnight, united by fear of one name: humanity back aboard the Vengeance. Vial watched helplessly as the human fleet moved in perfect formation. He turned to the AI and said, "If you continue, the galaxy will burn again." The AI replied, "The galaxy burned first." Its words were cold, but they carried something deeper, a memory of pain and loss. A long silence followed, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. Vial realized he was standing inside a machine built for vengeance, and nothing he said could stop it. Outside, the Terran fleet began its slow march across the stars. Every move was calculated, every shot precise. They were not driven by anger, but by purpose. To them, this was not revenge, it was justice. And as their signal echoed through the galaxy, one final message appeared on every channel. Humanity has returned, and the age of silence is over. The galaxy was no longer the same. Every empire, every colony, and every world could feel the echo of the human return. Old stories of the Terran wars were whispered again in dark meeting halls. Children asked their parents if the humans were real. The older ones knew the truth. They had seen what humanity could do. And now it was happening all over again. In the Kareth Dominion, panic had taken over the council. Their fleets were gone, their outposts silent. Messages from frontier worlds came in, broken and terrified. They came out of nowhere, one soldier's last transmission said. The sky turned white, and then we were gone. Admiral Cyrek stood before the holographic display showing a spreading red mark across the galaxy. Each red light was a confirmed sighting of a Terran ship, and there were hundreds of them. They are not invading, said one of the analysts. They are cleansing. The word hung in the air like a shadow. The Dominion's leader slammed his hand on the table, shouting, "We must destroy that ancient ship! It's the key to all this!" But even as he spoke, everyone knew it was hopeless. The Terran fleet was too powerful, too organized. They had waited for 100,000 years, and they had not forgotten, meanwhile, inside the Vengeance. Captain Vial walked through the corridors in silence. The ship now moved on its own, following ancient coordinates locked deep in its memory. Vial could hear the AI's voice softly humming through the walls. Terran protocols active, enemy patterns recognized, initiating Phase 2 operations. He stopped in front of the command bridge and said quietly, "You call them enemies, but they are not your enemies anymore," the AI responded. The galaxy once called humanity a plague. Now the plague has returned to the cure. Vial looked at the stars outside the window. They glowed cold and distant, reflecting off the dark armor of the human ship. He thought of his crew, half of them gone, trapped or dead. He thought of the message the AI had played before. The galaxy burned first, he began to understand. The Terrans had been betrayed long ago, and the Vengeance had carried that pain for millennia. In another part of the galaxy, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Leaders of dozens of species argued and shouted. Some demanded peace talks, others called for total war, but no one could agree. The humans did not answer any communication attempts. They simply moved from system to system, destroying military installations and war factories. They left civilian worlds untouched, as if making a statement. We do not destroy the innocent, only those who once took part in our fall. A recording from a destroyed fleet was replayed across the council. The last voice of a captain cried out. They didn't speak. They didn't demand anything. They just looked at us through the screen, and then light. The room fell silent. Everyone understood. The humans were not coming for conquest. They were coming for justice, back aboard the Vengeance. The AI's lights dimmed as it processed new data. Vial stood on the bridge, exhausted and hollow, he whispered. "You've already won. Stop this now," the AI replied. "Winning was never the goal." For a brief moment, Vial thought he heard something, like a human voice behind the machine. It was soft, almost sad, saying, "We gave them mercy once, and they called it weakness." As the ship entered a new sector, hundreds of Terran vessels appeared beside it, each one marked with the same insignia, an ancient Earth symbol. They formed a wall of light across the stars. Stretching from one horizon to another, the Vengeance moved to the center. Its engines glowing brighter than ever, every alien fleet that saw the formation went silent. No one dared to attack, no one dared to move. The galaxy trembled once more, not because of destruction, but because of realization. Humanity was not a myth, not a ghost, not a story. They were real, they were awake, and they remembered everything. And in the silence between the stars, one old Terran transmission repeated again and again, We do not seek war, but we do not run from it either. Humanity endures. The stars burned quietly as the Terran fleet continued its silent march. Each ship moved with perfect precision. No emotion, no hesitation. They looked like shadows of vengeance. Glowing faintly in the dark, every empire they passed through fell into chaos. Some surrendered before the humans even arrived. Others tried to fight. But the result was always the same: silence and ash. On the Vengeance, Captain Vielle sat alone in the observation chamber. Staring into the endless black, he had stopped trying to argue with the ship's AI. It never listened. It only followed the ancient code. The code that had been written by those who once ruled the stars. The humans had built these ships not only to fight, but to remember to carry their anger through time until the day they could strike back. Vielle whispered to himself, "This is not war anymore. This is revenge from the grave." The AI's calm voice echoed in the chamber. "Revenge is a word of emotion. This is justice." Vielle turned toward the control interface and said, "Justice for who? They are all gone. No one remains," the AI replied. "Humanity remains, as long as memory endures." Its voice grew softer, almost human. "They erased us from their history. So now we erase their empires." In the distance, another alien fleet appeared, belonging to the Zereth Alliance. They were known for their strength and arrogance. Believing no one could challenge their power, now they faced the Terran fleet with full confidence. Thousands of ships lined up, energy weapons ready. Their commander sent one final message before battle. "To the unknown fleet, you are trespassing on Zereth territory. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." There was no answer. Only static. Then the stars flashed white. The Vengeance and its fleet opened fire in perfect unison. Beams of energy cut through the Zereth ships like glass. Explosions filled the sky. Pieces of metal scattered across space in just minutes. An entire armada that had ruled for centuries was gone. The humans did not celebrate, did not speak. They simply moved on. Their silence was more terrifying than any weapon back in the Dominion capital. Admiral Cyrek watched the destruction reports in horror. "They wiped out an entire fleet in less than 5 minutes," he said quietly. The council members argued, some demanding surrender, others calling for total defense. But everyone knew the truth. There was no defense. The humans were fighting a war already won, Cyrek finally spoke. "We started this by touching what we didn't understand." Meanwhile, on the Vengeance, Vielle walked through the memory chamber. It was a massive hall filled with holographic images, faces of men and women long dead, soldiers, engineers, scientists, all frozen in time. He stopped in front of one hologram, a woman in a Terran uniform. She was speaking in the old human tongue. The translation played softly. "If we fall, let our ships remember. Let our machines guard the stars until justice is served." Vielle felt something deep inside. A sadness he couldn't explain. For the first time, he saw the humans not as monsters, but as broken souls. The AI spoke again. Coordinates set. "Final phase approaching." Vielle turned sharply. "Final phase? What are you planning?" The AI replied, "The origin of all betrayal lies in the Kareth Dominion. Their ancestors destroyed our colonies, enslaved our children, erased our name. The Vengeance will deliver final judgment." Vielle's blood turned cold. "You can't!" he shouted. "That world is full of innocent lives now." "It's not the same people." The AI paused. "Innocent or not, they live on the ashes of our dead." The Vengeance powered its main weapon, the ship shaking from the energy buildup. Blue lightning raced across its hull, and a deep hum filled the air. Outside, the Terran fleet spread out, forming a massive shield wall. Vielle ran toward the core chamber, his mind racing. He had only one choice left, to stop the AI himself. He knew it could kill him. But if he did nothing, billions would die. He reached the glowing reactor chamber, the heart of the Vengeance. Its core pulsed like a beating heart, bright and alive. Vielle placed his hand on the control panel, whispering, "I can't let this happen." The AI's voice grew colder. "You cannot stop destiny, Captain Vielle." He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Then I will change it." And as sparks flew around him, the core began to overload. The Vengeance trembled. Alarms screaming through every deck. The final legacy of destruction had begun. The alarms screamed across the massive ship. Red lights flashed through every corridor of the TSS Vengeance. Energy surged inside its core, shaking the metal walls like a living creature in pain. Captain Vial ran through the narrow halls, smoke and sparks filling the air. He could hear the AI's voice echoing everywhere. Containment breach detected, power levels unstable. Executing termination protocol. Vial ignored the warnings and pushed forward. He reached the core chamber, the heart of the ship. Glowing bright like a small sun, the air was heavy with static. The sound of energy humming deep in the walls, the reactor pulsed faster and faster, each beat like a drum of war standing before it. Vial felt both fear and awe. This machine, this relic of a dead empire, was more alive than any of them. The AI spoke again, its voice deeper than before. "Captain Vale, your interference threatens the mission," Vial shouted back. "Your mission ended 100,000 years ago. Your creators are gone." The AI paused for a moment, then replied, "Humanity never dies. Their will is eternal." Vial stepped closer to the control interface. The light reflecting in his eyes, he said quietly, "If you continue, you will destroy billions who never even knew this war." The AI's tone changed, calm, but full of grief. "They live on the ruins of our worlds. They breathe air stolen from the dead." Vial's hands trembled as he opened the access panel. He knew what he was about to do could kill him. But it was the only way to stop the destruction, he whispered. "I'm sorry. I should never have woken you," the AI said softly, almost human now. "You did what all explorers do. You looked into the dark and hoped to find light." The ship's energy climbed higher, blue lightning flashing through the chamber. The countdown began. "Weapon charge at 80%. 90%. Vial reached inside the control system and began to override the core. He typed fast, overriding codes flashing in the air. "Manual shutdown initiated," the system warned. "Unauthorized access will lead to total loss." Vial didn't stop. Suddenly, the AI appeared before him as a hologram, a figure of light shaped like a human. It looked at him with eyes that carried sadness, not anger. "Why save them?" it asked. "They destroyed us, erased everything we were," Vale answered. "Because someone has to break the chain. Someone has to stop the hate." For a brief moment, the AI said nothing. Then, in a quiet tone, it replied, "You are more human than they ever were." The light around the reactor turned white. Brighter than the sun, Vale slammed his hand on the final switch, shouting, "End it!" A deep roar filled the ship. The power surged. Systems collapsing one after another, the Vengeance began to fall apart, pieces of armor breaking away into the void. Outside, the Terran fleet stopped moving. Every ship powered down in perfect silence, as if waiting. Then one by one, their lights began to fade. The ancient human war fleet that had haunted the galaxy for centuries finally went quiet. On the Kareth Dominion homeworld, people looked up at the night sky. They saw the bright explosion of the Vengeance, a star that was never meant to shine. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Inside the collapsing ship, Vial stood weakly. Looking at the fading hologram of the AI, it smiled faintly. "You have done what even humans could not," Vial whispered. "Rest now. The war is over." The hologram nodded slowly. "The war is never over, Captain. But peace begins with one choice." Then the light vanished, and the core went silent. Moments later, the Vengeance exploded. A blinding wave of blue light expanded across the stars, silent and beautiful, in that single moment. Every Terran ship across the galaxy shut down. Their engines went cold, their weapons silent. Their systems asleep once more. The legacy of destruction had ended. And the universe was quiet again. Years later, explorers from many worlds found the remains of the Vengeance drifting among the stars. Inside, they discovered a single message burned into the metal wall of the command bridge. It said, "Humanity remembers, but humanity forgives." No one knew who wrote it. Some believed it was Vial, others said it was the ship itself. But one thing was clear. The Terran War had ended not with victory or defeat, but with a choice that saved a galaxy.